How's everybody doing out there? Ricky Shabazz. Got you on my cell phone too. I'm watching myself, so hopefully you don't get any reverb. If you do, let me know. Welcome. I'm going to get started probably about 5 minutes after. Got about 25 people on. Appreciate you all joining online. Ricky Shabazz, Navionics. Thank you for those who say you're getting some echo. I'll get off my phone now. I just wanted to make sure I can see what I look like online. For those of you getting some echo, it should be good now. Hopefully you don't have any echo. I was on my phone and my laptop just making sure you all could see me. I'm going to get started about 5 minutes after. There will be an opportunity to ask questions. This is all about me being able to answer the questions that you all have. If you have some questions as we are going, please feel free to write them down and I'll get to as many as I can. There's a chat feature there that allows you to write your questions. I'm going to go through the whole PowerPoint presentation before I get to the questions, but I will try to get to everybody's questions, and I will also be available via email. I'll give you guys my email. So we're going to give it to about 5 minutes after, and I'll get started. I'm going to talk for about 15-20 minutes and then take about 15-20 minutes worth of questions. Again, this is about helping you catch more fish, learning how to read the maps, how to find offshore structure that we use to catch fish, particularly during the winter time. And we are actually getting a winter time out here in California. I just flew in from Northern California where it was absolutely raining. And as soon as I touched down in Southern California, guess what? It was raining again. So we're going to get started here in a little bit. Give me about 5 or 10 minutes. We'll get started. Appreciate you all being online. Okay, well, it's 35 after. I want to be respectful for everybody's time, so we're going to go ahead and get started. Appreciate everybody logging on. So again, my name is Ricky Shabazz. I'm a marine specialist with Navionics. I'm going to be going over offshore structure fishing with SonarCharts. A little bit about me. I want to make sure everybody can see the PowerPoints. You can see the PowerPoint. Just let me chat real quick just to make sure everybody can see the PowerPoint. Great, everybody can see the PowerPoint. Yes, everybody's muted. All the questions will go through the chat. So if you have questions, please use the chat function. I'll go back through the chat when I'm done. But everybody is muted. You should not be able to speak. I'm going to be going through the PowerPoint. Looks like everybody can see the PowerPoint. So let's dive into it. About me, I'm a West Coast tournament angler and outdoor writer. I'm located in Southern California. My name is not Paul Mitchell. That's my boss at Navionics, one of the bosses. My name is Ricky Shabazz. My home lake is Diamond Valley Lake in Hemet. Favorite lakes, though, are the California Delta and Clear Lake. I have numerous top 10 finishes on those two bodies of water. I went to school in Northern California. That's where I started fishing, even though in terms of actually starting to bass fish, I started in Southern California, but I fished tournaments when I was in college. And so I went to a school, UC Davis, about 15 minutes outside of Sacramento. It's about an hour away from the Delta, Clear Lake. That's where I started my bass fishing. I fish on the FLW Coastal Series, Wild West Bass, One Bass, and my team partner and I, Tony Lane, fished several team circuits here in Southern California. I do some writing from westernbass.com, One Bass, Bass West, and several other magazines, blogs across the country. I do seminars all over the country. Again, I'm a marine specialist for Navionics. I do have a day job. I'm a vice president for a community college. Definitely blessed and honored to represent companies like Anglers Marine, Ranger Boats, Costa, Iowa, Missile Base, Lowrance, Mercury, Power Pole, Navionics, and Western Bass. If you ever have any questions, you can always email me at rshabazz@navionics.com, or you can visit my website, Team Bling Fishing, Facebook, Ricky Shabazz. So again, thank you for taking time to join the webinar. It is going to be about 20 or 30 minutes of presentation with about another 20 or 30 minutes of questions. The webinar is being recorded. It'll be available via navionics.com in a couple of days. Everyone's muted. You should be able to see a prompt on your screen to ask questions. I'll take questions at the end of the presentation. So there's a chat function. I'm going to go over today also structure fishing using SonarCharts, meaning the electronic mapping that's in your fish finder. I'm going to show you how to locate channel swings, humps, points. I'm going to go over some of the techniques. Then I'm going to go into questions. If you have questions, just click on chat at the bottom of your screen at any time during the presentation. At the end of the presentation, I will answer as many questions as possible. If you run out of time, there's my email if you have questions. This is about helping you all catch fish. I am going to talk about some products, but I believe the products I'm going to be talking about sell themselves. This is about asking questions and getting your questions answered. So again, this is all about contours and mapping. There's several different options in terms of 3D view, satellite overlay. We do updates, and the SonarCharts that I use have 1 foot contours. Let me be clear, there are a lot of great mapping software out there. The units come with great mapping software, but we're going to talk about building your own maps using SonarCharts Live and some of the mapping software that's out there. Let me give you an example of what I'm talking about. On the left is Clear Lake using a 3D satellite overlay. As bass fishermen, I really don't use the satellite overlay unless I'm going to more places that have backwaters. The satellite overlay is going to really shine in bass fishing in terms of having access to any backwaters. Places like the California Delta, places like Lake Havasu, places like the Mobile Delta, any tidal fisheries where there are a lot of backwaters, that's really where the 3D function is going to shine. In most cases, we are using the mapping similar to the Navionics Plus. And there's some new regional cards that came out a couple months ago that are actually preloaded. I'm going to talk a little bit about that. and the fact that they have 1 foot contours. So let's talk about live mapping. What you see on the top left is me connecting my Lowrance HDS 12 to my iPad via the wireless Bluetooth function in the unit. And you see me holding my iPhone, which is running the Navionics map. Now, what I could do is run live mapping directly off of the sonar or the unit, which is down in the bottom corner, which I run Lowrance. You could also do this with Hummingbird. You could do it with Garmin. You could do it with Raymarine. I'm going to be talking about Lowrance because that's what I use. But the beauty of fishing in 2017, 2016 is that all of the units can do this for the most part, particularly the new units. Almost every major brand out there has some kind of Wi-Fi feature that will allow you to connect either wirelessly to the Navionics app, or you could do what we call sonar logging live on your unit. So here in the top left is me doing what we call SonarCharts live, which is connecting my Lowrance HDS 12 via the Wi-Fi to my cell phone, which takes the data off of the transducer and makes a live map. So on the right-hand side, what you see is a little local lake in San Diego County that just opened up after being closed for about 7 years. It's San Vicente Lake at the top right. They raised the dam at San Vicente and the lake came up, I want to say 80 to 100 feet. So it's a whole new lake. There's no map for the lake other than the map you see. So 2 weeks ago, I went out to the lake, and what you see in the bottom right corner is me actually making a live map of the lake. And if I was able to zoom in, you'd see 1 foot contours using my Lowrance connected to my Navionics app in my phone. This is actually a screenshot of me doing what we call SonarCharts live, which means anything that I drive over when my Navionics app is connected to my Lowrance via Wi-Fi, I start to be able to build a live map of San Vicente or any lake that you go to. That data, excuse me, once I get back home, will be connected to Navionics via me and my iPad connecting wirelessly. So that data will be uploaded to Navionics in a couple of weeks. You'll have a more updated version of the lake. The other advantage to doing this is that sometimes we go to lakes and the data for the lake may not be accurate. I don't care what mapping software you use, they're not 100% accurate. So the ability to make live maps allows you to actually see what's underneath the water, record that either on your fish finder, which you see here in the bottom left. There's a software update coming up for Lowrance. Now you can already do this on a Hummingbird, you can do it on a Raymarine. There's a software coming out, update coming out for Lowrance that will allow you to do this SonarCharts live directly on the unit. And this is a screenshot of a beta testing of that. So you'll no longer have to connect your wireless device, whether it be your iPad or your phone. This will work on Android too. You'll no longer have to connect them wirelessly. You'll be able to do the SonarCharts live directly on your unit. And again, the advantage to doing this is that all the mapping software, I don't care which one you're using, is not 100% accurate. Making an actual map of the lake while you're on the water is the only way you're going to have 100% of what's actually under the water. And then you could save that to whatever your unit or your iPad or your phone so that you actually know rock piles and humps. And I'm going to show you what those things look like. So the moral of the story in terms of fishing offshore is that there is a saying that 90% of the fish live in 10% of the water. Well, bass are creatures that are conditioned. So if you live in shallow water, sooner or later you're going to get caught. After a while of getting caught, you're going to probably become gun shy to hitting baits or biting baits. And so it's very important to get off the bank, learn how to read a map, so that you can identify humps, points, channel swings, which are high percentage spots and tend to be spots that you catch a lot of fish that are not used to being caught. And so what we're talking about, this is about a 5-pounder that we caught, or I caught, using a missile bait drop shot bait. And I'm going to show you the bait a little later. And I caught this fish off of a channel swing that ran into a hump. Now, just driving over this spot, you see it's marked, so a lot of people were fishing it. But a lot of people didn't know that there was a channel swing on the backside of the hump that I was able to find, located using my electronics and my Navionics map and making a live map of the lake, so that everyone was throwing at the buoy when the fact of the pressure of people throwing at the buoy, excuse me, the pressure of people throwing at the buoy pushed the fish off to the channel swing. So what is a channel swing? These are examples of channel swings. Very simply, a channel swing is where the creek runs into the bank. It's any swing in a creek bed. That's the easiest way to put it. But I have a couple of examples. So this is an actual creek running up from deep water, even though it says 240 feet. A lot of our lakes in Southern California are very low. But this is a channel swing in a creek bed that eventually goes into the shore. This is that same spot in terms of what it looks like, with a rock pile on it. This is my Lowrance. You see that on the top left is an actual example of the rock pile, what it looks like on the fish finder. On the top right, you see what it looks like on the down scan. And on the bottom, we're running a Lowrance Navionics Plus Regions West card, which is preloaded with all the maps for the West Coast. Points are another high percentage spot that we fish. This screenshot actually shows a point at Diamond Valley Lake that actually has several key high percentage spots. So you see a long tapering point that runs way out into the water. Now keep in mind the lake's down about 100 feet. So at 100 feet down, this hump is in 20 to 30 feet of water. So you see the primary point, you see a hump, and you see a secondary point. And this would be an example of a channel swing where the channel runs into the shore. Again, this is shallow water, even though it says 100 feet, the lake is down about 100 or so feet. It's coming up now. But when I did the screenshot, the lake was down. So this is an example of a channel swing running into a point. This is another screenshot showing the spot that I showed earlier. Let me go back. This spot right here, the channel swing, the hump that I caught this fish off of, this is actually what that spot looks like at Cascade Lake. There's the hump where the buoy was, there's the channel swing. So being able to read a map is very important to be able to find those high percentage spots. In this case, everybody was throwing at the hump because it was marked. Those fish went to the first break, which would be the channel swing, which provided them an opportunity to go up shallow to the hump, but also have access to deep water. You know, a lot of times as I'm doing seminars, people don't know what these things look like. And so I'm trying to show you screenshots with some very detailed examples of what these features look like on the map so that you can go to your home lake and start to look at some of these things when you bring up your mapping software on whatever unit you're using. I also find these spots using my Navionics app. If I'm sitting in a meeting, I'm traveling, I'm looking for these kind of spots using the Navionics app on my phone so I don't have to bring my fish finder in. Here's an example of a deep hump at Diamond Valley Lake. Again, this hump with the lake being down 100 feet is in 15 feet of water. And so, I don't know why my mouse keeps disappearing. So I'm looking for stuff in terms of offshore that are high percentage spots. This is an example of a deep hump. And the way that I'm able to adjust the fish finder to find these places are called max depth range on the unit. And so I go into the unit and I click on settings, mapping, max depth range, and I can start to change the coloring of the fish finder to start being able to find off-water spots. So the key to offshore structure fishing first is good electronics. You got to have good electronics. I don't care what brand you use, whether it be a Lowrance, Humminbird. In 2017, most of these electronics, particularly if you use you know, a name brand, Humminbird, Lowrance, Garmin, Raymarine, they're all fairly close to one another, which means that it becomes the mapping software that you're using that allow you to find those key high percentage spots. There's also a free web app on Navionics. I'm going to show you how to use that. Again, mapping and satellite overlay so that you can see the things. I primarily use satellite overlay if I'm trying to find backwaters on lakes like Lake Havasu, the Delta, Louisiana Delta, tidal waters. Any lakes or bodies of water that have backwaters is what I'm trying when I'm going to use satellite overlay. Again, the phone and tablet app allow me to do this research without having to be in my boat. So it used to be if you wanted to study a map, you either had to have a paper map or you had to take your fish finder in the house and play with your mapping software that way. But nowadays you can sync the data on your tablet and your phone with your fish finder, particularly using an Navionics app. At the end of the day, nothing beats seat time in order to do your research and get the freshest data on whatever lake. Now, the benefit of using Navionics is that we take data from all the major fish finders. And so you have Lowrance, they have their version of mapping, Raymarine, all of these companies have their version of mapping. Now, the difference between Navionics and these other companies is we take data to build our mapping software, which is called SonarCharts, from all of these major OEM fish finder brands. And so what you're going to do is get access to thousands of people that are out doing sonar logging, who's uploading the data to the Navionics website. They're going to give you the most accurate data in terms of mapping software. The other thing that's important is how do you set your boat up? What you see in the top right screen is an example of how I set my boat up, where the fish finders nowadays have a good GPS in it, but I always use a GPS puck because it updates 4 times faster than the GPS puck that is, or the GPS system that's already in the unit. So that allows me to be able to be a lot more accurate, pinpoint accurate in terms of putting in waypoints. If I'm going to mark a hump, if I'm going to mark a break, if I'm going to mark a point, if I'm going to mark a hump, whatever I'm marking, a brush pile, a rock pile, if I'm going to put a GPS marker there, I'm going to want to use a GPS puck because that GPS waypoint will go where the puck is, and I'll be more accurate in terms of going back to that spot and being able to fish it effectively. Also, the way we set up our fish finders, I set it up so that I can see that unit when I'm doing figure eights or when I'm driving over a high percentage spot. I want to be able to have line of sight of where that GPS spot is, or where that drop off is, or where that point or where that hump is, or where that rock pile is. So it's very important how you set up your electronics to get the most out of them. And again, this is an example of a channel swing screenshot from my unit with a hump. And you can see all the figure eights there that I was doing until I got to a point where here's a high percentage spot where I probably marked a rock pile or I marked a drop off. But it took me doing a lot of figure eights with my fish finder in order to be able to find that spot, which again, this is that same spot where I showed that fish, which is a channel swing that goes into a hump. Let's talk about baits. Probably the #1 bait that we use out west to catch fish off of these spots that I've been showing you is a drop shot. Very simply, a drop shot is a Palomar knot with some kind of hook tied to a drop shot at the bottom. And depending on how advanced or novice you are, this is an example of how I tie a Palomar knot and how I put a drop shot weight at the bottom using whatever your favorite plastic bait is. Very simply, fishing a drop shot, I'm going to cast out, let the bait go to the bottom, and I'm going to do one of 3 things. I'm either going to shake the bait, I'm going to drag the bait, or I'm going to dead stick the bait. The other thing that's very important that allows my team partner and I to win a lot of tournaments, win a lot of money fishing out there, is a lot of folks will throw at a spot and bring your bait back. We do something out west called fishing uphill, meaning we'll put our boat in shallow water on the target and cast out into deeper water and bring the bait toward us. That's important because fish get conditioned into seeing a bait come a certain way. And all of a sudden you sit up in shallower water and throw deeper and work at what we call uphill, you'll get more bites. So let's talk about the drop shot. Typically, we're going to use 6 or 8 pound fluorocarbon line. Depending on the circumstances, you could use heavier. You could use lighter. Now, I tend to not go any lighter than 6 pound, but my team partner is known to use 4 and 5 pound. My thing is, if I got to go any lighter than 6 pound, that may just be a fish I don't need to catch. I do tie a uni to uni knot connecting braided line to fluorocarbon line. The reason why I do that, 1, it saves me fluorocarbon. 2, it allows me to have more sensitivity in deeper water because braided line doesn't have any stretch. So if I'm fishing very deep water, I'm definitely going to use a braided line tied or connected to a fluorocarbon line via a uni to uni knot. And you can Google some of this stuff in terms of to see pictures of it. The braided line has 0 stress, so you're going to have more sensitivity. I either tie a Palomar knot or an improved clinch knot. Weights, I tend to use either lead or tungsten, 3/16 1/4 ounce. The general rule is use the lightest drop shot weight that you can get away with. In terms of hooks, tend to use either Robo Rebarb or Gamakatsu all-sod hook, light wire hook, 1/0 for a 4-inch worm. These are some of the baits that I use. What you see is a missile-based fuse. I use a missile-based fuse a lot in terms of drop shotting. Your typical robo worm, Cinco. Sometimes I'll use a nail weight instead of drop shotting. Here's an example of a nail weight, or what we call the Neko Rig. It's an alternative to drop shotting. I typically will use this rig in 0 to 25 feet. In 0 to 25 feet, a Neko Rig will outfish a drop shot all day, except for if you're fishing around brush. This technique is not very good around brush because you get hung up. But generally speaking, 0 to 25, a Neko Rig, which is a wacky style rig where you either use some kind of nail in the head or you use some kind of screw-in weight in the head. You can use your favorite worm, your favorite creature bait, and it's an alternative to drop shotting. And so what you see here is a Zoom trick worm with a shrink tube to save your baits and a 3/16 ounce Voss screw-in weight and a 1/0 Gamakatsu drop shot. And what you want to do with this bait, 9 times out of 10, the fish is going to hit it on the fall because it has this swirling nature. This is an alternative to a Cinco too. So you throw it out there. If you don't get bit on the fall, you pretty much shake it back to the bait, back to the boat. You throw it out, let it hit the bottom. Again, 9 times out of 10, you're going to hit it on the fall. If you don't get hit on the fall, shake your bait back to you. Reel in the slack, shake your bait back to you. These are some of the examples of the Neko Rig. Typically, I'll pre-rig 30 to 40 baits at a time. You can make it weightless by putting the hook into the bait. And I will use fish attractant, something like a bang or a smelly jelly. These are just some alternative baits that you can use on the Neko Rig. Equipment, typically when you're fishing deep or on these spots that I'm talking about, you're going to use spinning rod and reel. I'm partial to Daiwa. That's what I use. I use a Steez spinning rod, 7 feet medium light. I use a Daiwa ballistic. There's a lot of good equipment out there. Pick a high-end equipment. You want a good rod that has backbone, but that is very sensitive. I typically use 6-pound tests if I'm using deep water or highly pressured fish. I will go up to 8 or 10 or even 12 if I'm fishing around places that I know have big fish like the California Delta or Clear Lake. That pretty much is the overview of the information that I wanted to go over with you in terms of how to find humps, how to find channel swings, how to find lone sloping points using the mapping software that's available. This is my email address. If you have any questions, I am going to go to the questions. There are other webinars out there that you can locate, Navionics.com webinar. My colleagues and I are doing webinars all through the spring and the summer. If you have any questions about catching more fish, these are all about helping you catch more fish. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to go to the chat, and if you have any questions, Give me 1 second. Let me show you real quick I talked about there being a free mapping, access to free mapping software on Navionics.com. You all should be able to see on Navionics.com the website. I should be on the website. You're going to click on Web App, and this will give you access to free mapping. So if I'm at home and I know I'm going to a lake, I'll go onto the Web App and I'll start looking at lakes. Like I'm going to show you the Diamond Valley, which I said is my home lake. So I'm going to zoom in, and this is the same software that's available in your unit. But what you can do at home, you can actually start planning out your day. So this is that same map of Diamond Valley Lake. Matter of fact, I'm going to show you that point. It's right here off of the East Dam that I showed you in the PowerPoint presentation. You can see, because I mapped it using Navionics, it actually shows you this is that exact long sloping point with those 2 humps and the channel swing. And so you can find this data and start doing your research for free at Navionics.com by clicking on the web app. I also give you the SonarCharts, which is our most detailed version of the map, and the regular map. You can see the difference right there. This is the Navionics regular map. This is the SonarCharts map, which is typically more data. You can make a route. If you're going to a new lake, we have something called auto route, which will help you get from dock to dock. So if you're going to a lake you've never been to and you don't want to get lost, particularly if you're on a big lake, you can make a route on the web app. You could also make a route in your Navionics chip, and excuse me, the Navionics app on your phone or your tablet. So just wanted to show you that real quick. Let me stop there. There we go. And we're back. And I'm going to start scrolling through and seeing the questions. We're going to open up the questions. Hopefully y'all can see me now. Before I start taking questions, I want to talk real quick about the Navionics region cards. So a couple months ago, we heard from the anglers that they wanted a preloaded map. So this is Navionics Regions Card West. So it's preloaded with most of the lakes that we offer, excuse me, all of the lakes that we offer in the Western United States. They have this for different regions of the country. So it's plug and play. This is what you get. Another question that I get a lot of emails about is, hey, I got a new unit, I got an Navionics card, but my unit takes a mini card. The mini is inside of the big SD card, right? The other question that I get is, can you record on this card? You cannot record on this card. If you're going to do sonar logging or recording your data, you need a blank SD card. You cannot record. But when you get a Navionics card, you get access to a year's worth of data for free. So when you buy this card, you get free data, uploads and downloads for a year. After that year is going to cost you $99. Now, why would you want to do that? There are guys like myself. I showed you a picture of San Vicente. It didn't have a map. I'm out there sonar logging. I'm going to upload that data to Navionics in a couple of weeks, a month. That data for the map of that lake is going to be available. If you have an old chart and you never updated the chart, that means that chart or that map is not on your card. You're going to want to put your card into your unit. Excuse me. You're going to want to put your card into your computer. Create a username and password on Navionics.com, and for the first year, you get unlimited access to updates or what we call fresh data. So when that map of San Vicente becomes available, only those anglers who update their card on Navionics.com are going to have access to it. Now, here's the benefit to the map on your phone. So let me show you real quick. I actually have a Navionics app on my phone. You can get it, Navionics.com. So I have a Navionics app on my phone. Now, let me show you this. I'm going to actually go to San Vicente. And you're going to see that when I did that live mapping, that map, it's not a good shot. It won't. Unfortunately, it's not showing you too good, but that map of San Vicente is actually on my phone. So when I do that live mapping, it's always on my phone, or it's on my iPad. And so when I make a live map, I have that map. It's there. It'll be there forever. For those of you who are not doing that live mapping, in order to get that data, you're going to have to update your card using the card reader and by registering your card at Navionics.com. Just wanted to make sure I go over that. Let me go over some questions. Let's see here. So Jeff asked if, what if the creek bed is over 70 feet deep? Will you fish structure without seeing fish on the fish finder? The quick answer is yes. If I'm locating good structure down there, I'm going to give it a try. However, with these, with these new units with down scan and that sort of stuff, the fish can't hide. And so typically I'm going to be looking for fish on the fish finder. Now me, I don't fish any deeper than 60, and to be honest, I don't like fishing in deeper than 50. But there are times a year where you have to go down and fish 50 and 60 feet of water. I typically don't go any deeper than about 55 or 60 feet. And I'm either going to be on a long point with a creek channel bend, or I'm just going to be on a long tapering point that goes out to the lake, which it gives the fish deep water access. But again, to answer your question, will I fish without seeing a fish on the fish finder? It probably, Jeff, is going to have to be a spot that I fished before and that I just have confidence in. How do I put the shrink tube on the worm? Very easy. Just go to your local Lowe's or Home Depot, and they have different sizes of shrink wrap. You just find the appropriate size based on the diameter of the worm, and you literally just slide the shrink wrap over the worm. It'll save you a lot of money. Tom, I mentioned the web app earlier. What is that? The web, Tom, I should have answered your question. The web app is going to Navionics.com and clicking on web app. That gives you free access to the same mapping that you will have either on your Navionics Regions Plus card or on the app that's on your phone or your tablet. The same data that's available there is on that web app for free. So you can start doing your research at home, marking your spots for free, using the Navionics web app. Donnell, how accurate are the maps on the web app? The map on the web app is the same app, the map, Donnell, that's in the web app is the same app, map. Why am I having a problem with that? Donnell, the map that's in the web app is the same map that's either on the Navionics card or that's in the Navionics app that's in your phone. It is the most accurate map. So we push that information out via the web and the app before we put it on the card, which is the advantage to having the app on your phone or your tablet or going to the web app. It is very accurate. Jim, I have a Generation 2 touch graphs with a 2014 Navionics card. Would the Navionics Plus be the best upgrade? Jim, the quick answer is yes, Jim. The long answer is we actually have a Navionics update card that'll cost you $99. You can only use that card if you have an existing card. So you could do one or two things. You could actually update your card, the 2014 card, for $99 by just registering it and paying the $99, or you could buy a Navionics update card. In your case, I'd recommend that you just update the card by registering it at Navionics.com and paying the $99, and it'll allow you to register the card and then download the most updated version. You'd have access to updates for a year. Hopefully that answered your question, Jim. Any other questions out there? Again, I appreciate you all joining on to the webinar. It is being recorded. It will be available at Navionics.com, and it'll be available via YouTube as well. Are there any more questions out there? There are also a lot of other webinars that'll be going on. Again, this is to help you all catch more fish. There'll be a lot of other webinars going on at Navionics.com. You can search the webinars when you go to the website, and there'll be webinars going on through the summertime on different types of fishing and techniques and boat rigging. Again, this is all about helping you all catch more fish and answering your questions. Jeremy, will the new update save the Sonar Live maps on the Navionics card? The answer is no, but it depends. The way the SonarCharts Live works is going to save the SonarCharts Live to the unit. So it depends on what unit you're running, Jeremy. If you're running the Lowrance, the live portion of it is not saved to the Navionics card. It'll be to the unit. If you're running it off of your iPad or your phone, it'll be in the app. So it really depends on what brand of unit you're running. So, okay, so the Lowrance Gen 3, when the SonarCharts Live update is pushed out through Lowrance, it'll save via the unit. If you're running it, SonarCharts Live, through the tablet or the phone, it'll be saved on the tablet or the phone. What will ultimately happen is when you connect to Wi-Fi that via your phone or your tablet back at home, that data will be uploaded to Navionics, and eventually it'll be available to update your card. So that's the importance. So typically, here's how often I update a card. I either do it once a month or before I go to a lake I haven't been to, right? And that's very important. So that's the importance of having access to fresh data, is I'm going to update my card either once a month or I'm going to update it before I go to a lake I haven't been to. Donnell, when you're fishing those high percentage areas, do you primarily use soft plastics? What are your thoughts on swim baits? Donnell, I'm not a big swim bait guy. Do I catch fish on swim baits? Absolutely. I'm a tournament guy. Do swim baits win tournaments? Absolutely. But a lot of times, swim baits don't win tournaments. Those are a hit a home run type of bait. So when I'm out on the water, I always tell people I like catching. I don't like fishing. Sometimes when you're throwing swim baits, you're fishing, you're not catching. So what baits I use tend to be based on the time of year. I win more money, which is my goal when I'm fishing, on the Neko Rig, because most people are drop shotting and those fish get conditioned to drop shotting. And so the Neko Rig presents a soft plastic bait in a different way than it would if you were drop shotting. So the exception to that would be, and I didn't talk about it, but I do fish a lot of jigs deep too, particularly in early spring. And out west, we use a lot of 10, 12, 16-inch worms that we shake out deep. So there are some variations to some other baits that I do use, one of them being a jig. And typically colors for a jig, I'm going to use a brown and purple. That's probably the #1 color I use, or all brown or green pumpkin. Those are really my colors of jigs. I don't have a lot of colors of jigs. And then I'm going to use big worms, whether it be a 10-inch power worm. We use a lot of 10-inch hand-poured worms, like a brownish green pumpkin color. Those are some of the other baits that I'll use on those spots as well, besides drop shotting or besides throwing a Neko Rig. Any other questions out there for you all? Could I explain max depth range settings? Yes. It's harder to explain without having a unit in front of me. But if you friend me on Facebook or you look at YouTube, type in max depth range on a Lowrance, and I have several YouTube videos out there, and I have several videos on my Facebook page. The two most common questions that I get in my work with Navionics or out doing seminars is the mini card in the larger SD card, and then the second one is max depth range. And so it's in your setting, and the max depth range allows you to adjust the contour shading based on the level of the lake. So a lot of our reservoirs out west or throughout the country, they rise and they lower based on drought conditions. The max depth range allows you to adjust the coloring and the shading of the contour lines based on the actual water level, which gives you more detail. So if the lake is down 60 feet, you can lower the max depth range to 60 feet, and it'll adjust your coloring so you can start seeing the humps at that water level. Hopefully that answers your question, John. So the max depth range settings allows you to adjust the contour line shading based on the actual lake level of the lake. And the way you find out the lake level is most of the lakes have water levels at the Bureau of Reclamation or the Water Bureau or whatever for your state, if that makes any sense. Jeff, hydro wave, snake oil? I think the jury is still out on the hydro wave, Jeff. Let me say this. I have had a hydro wave on every boat I've had for the last 5 boats, and I had something happen on the very first boat I had a hydro wave on, where I turned it on, and all of a sudden shafts start swimming up to the trolling motor. That is a real live, I saw with my eyes, fact, real story. Here's what I believe a hydro wave works. If nothing else, it masks the sound of the trolling motor. I had a friend who went fishing one day, and it just so happened that the Department of Fish and Game was out shocking fish. They were doing a research study. And in their research study, they had cameras mounted, underwater cameras mounted on the boat. And they wanted to see whether or not fish reacted to the trolling motor. So they go down a bank with no trolling motor and they mark all these fish with the cameras. Then they go back down the same bank with the trolling motor, and you'd see in the underwater camera those fish swim off the bank every time they hit the trolling motor. So if nothing else, Jeff, I'm using a hydro wave to mask the sound of a trolling motor. Hopefully that answers your question, Jeff. Any other questions out there I can answer for you all? If not, I want to be respectful of your time. Again, thank you all for attending the webinar. It is being recorded. It'll be available in a couple of days to a week on Navionics.com. You can visit Navionics.com to look at other webinars that are going to be taking place. This webinar will be uploaded into YouTube as well. If there are no other questions, good luck out there. If you ever need to email me, my email address is rshabazz@Navionics.com. You can friend me on Facebook, Ricky Shabazz. Good luck out there. Thank you for attending. Enjoy the rest of your evening.